Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our 309th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. So the way this call works is this is an AMA, meaning ask me anything like you see on Reddit. You can ask me business questions, career questions, any questions you want to, personal growth questions even. And my humble goal is to help you take your career, portfolio, company, happiness, personal growth, etc. to the next level. So without further ado, let's begin. One quick housekeeping announcement. My company is growing a lot. And so this means I'm going to have a lot more time to be able to do daily Zoom calls, meaning daily group Zoom calls in my new MBA programs. If you want to learn more, or if you want to set up a call with us to discuss personal coaching, career coaching, or joining our MBA degree programs where you can start right away, then please see the link in the description of this video to set up a call with us. And thank you. Let me move on to your questions now. All right, first up, Ray wrote, if I have a stock that I own and it starts falling and it was a bad decision to buy, what do you do? Sell 80% or buy more? Yeah. So what I humbly recommend doing is don't ever buy a stock unless you want to own it for at least a couple of years. And so the best way to prepare to decide whether or not to buy a stock is to always build your own financial model. Now, in my MBA degree program, I provide you templates for everything so you can work smarter, not harder. So what I recommend doing, and this is based on my experience, this spreadsheet here, working on Wall Street for years, working at Goldman, working at the top hedge funds, and working in venture capital as well. So what I recommend that you do is, and again, if you're in my MBA program, you get this for free. You fill out this entire spreadsheet, and I promise you, this will materially increase the chances of you making money and not making bad decisions, meaning selling a stock because it's down. And as Warren Buffett said, the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. As crazy as that sounds, and we've all been there. So the way that you analyze a company is there's three different categories of analysis. Category one, as you can see right here, is qualitative investment research. Then you have quantitative, and then you have financial research. And so all you do in all 100 tabs here is you enter in the name of the company, and then you answer tons of questions I have for you down here, okay? Including the total addressable market, market growth, as well as your revenue forecast, income statement forecast, etc. And this will help you come up with a target price. Then what you can do, and this is what I used to do when I managed my hedge fund. What you can do is you can print out, this is dummy data here, a one-pager, okay? And what I used to do was, one of the ways I got jobs at the top hedge funds was I would include this one-pager on the back of my resume, and I bring a bunch of these to my investment interviews as well. What I would also do in my hedge fund, when I ran it years ago, was I would have a couple hundred of these, that's right, a couple hundred of these that I did one-page research reports on the wall in my offices. So I could always kind of look at, should I buy this position or not, etc. So what I want you to do is always make a one-page write-up, okay, before you invest in anything. It's kind of like making a business plan before you start a company, because failing to plan is plan to fail. Now, what also comes out of this is a detailed report that's 100 to 150 pages and a massive dashboard as well. Okay, so what I recommend doing is do your due diligence yourself. Don't ever rely on me or anybody else in terms of what stocks to buy. Then after you do your due diligence and you start buying shares in the company, you have that report, okay, even the one-pager. And if you want to sell it, okay, let's say a year goes by and the stock is down, you're like, oh my God, I think I want to sell it. Then what I want you to do is this is crucial. I want you to go back to that one-pager you made, and I want you to look at it and tell yourself this. Okay, a year ago I made this one-page report. New information came out on the stock, and the stock is down. Had I known that new piece of information when I created this one-pager a year ago, would I have still bought the stock? If the answer is no, sell it, be unemotional, move on. If the answer is yes, then buy more, as long as it's not a 5% or higher position. Now, from a risk management perspective, I always humbly recommend that you never have more than 5% of capital in any one particular stock. So that means that if you want to have a stock portfolio, never have more than 20 positions. So I hope that helps you understand whether or not you should sell a stock because it's down or not. Yeah. And when I buy stocks, what I do is I usually start with 50 basis points, meaning a 0.5% position in my portfolio. And I want to take it to a 5% position eventually. And I hope it gets murdered. I hope it goes down a lot. And I know that sounds cray-cray, but I want it to go down so I can buy more and make it a full position. And you got to be a contrarian when you invest, and in business in general. Otherwise, you'll never be successful. And as a very proud Canadian living in the States, very proud, I have to quote my idol, Wayne Gretzky. Okay, and there's going to be a stock reference here. So Wayne Gretzky was very successful, not because he skates where the puck is, but rather because he skates where the puck is going to be. And by the same token, I want us to have the same foresight and buy stocks that people are going to like. Okay, don't buy stocks everybody loves right now. Otherwise, what will happen is if everybody owns a stock, there's not that many incremental investors to push it higher. Be a contrarian and watch your net worth take off. Always do the opposite of what other people do. And I promise you this will serve you well. And I'll give you an example of this. So I lived in New York City and I worked at Goldman Sachs during 9/11. It was terrible. I saw everything outside my window. I worked on the top floor of the most southern building. I can talk about my experiences in more detail if you want me to. But I remember after 9/11, my wife Christine and I, we were renting and we wanted to buy a place in New York City. And it felt so uncomfortable to buy at that point in time. But that's why we bought, because nobody else was. As Mr. Buffett says, you want to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Now, when it comes to real estate and doing your due diligence before buying a real estate investment property or your primary home, for those of you in my MBA degree programs, I just released this complete real estate elective that you can take. Okay, I explain real estate from scratch, whether you want to do a primary residence investment or residential investment rental or commercial rental. So all you do is you enter in the address. It works in every country, including my beloved Canada. And then you type a lot of answers to tons and tons of questions here. I teach you how mortgage works. I teach you how to value the property 5 different ways. I create your income statement, balance sheet, all the formulas, and it goes into a 1-page executive summary, similar to the stock one I showed you a minute ago. What also comes out of this is a massive, massive business plan. And the business plan, I'll go on to the next question in a second here, but the business plan actually looks like this. It's a 27-page report that will help you understand whether or not you should buy that investment property. Okay? Again, failing to plan is planning to fail. I have tons of templates for all my students to be able to work smarter and not harder before committing capital to any investment. I want you all to think very long term. And my humble goal for all my students is within 10 to 15 years, you all make way more money from your rental investment properties than you do from your primary salary. Yeah, the wealthiest people in the world, they own real estate. And they don't just do it because real estate goes up over time. My grandfather, God bless him, he used to say, Chrissy, buy land, they're not making it anymore. One of the other reasons they buy real estate is so they pay less in taxes. So if you watch the first televised debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump back in 2016, you might recall that Hillary said, why don't you show us your tax returns? How come you're not paying taxes? WTF, why the face? And Trump said, rightly so, right? I'll call a spade a spade. He said, of course I don't pay much in taxes because I get to depreciate using real estate. So if you own a lot of real estate, you pay less taxes if they're investment properties. And the 400 richest families in America only pay 20% tax. Warren Buffett pays much less in taxes as a percent of his income than his assistant does. And so the system is somewhat rigged. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but the system is somewhat rigged in favor of people that start their own companies. And the only way to live your life in your own terms is to start your own company. Last thing I'll say when it comes to taxes and your own company, this room right here, my company actually rents it from me. This is part of my house. This is another wing of my house here. You get a lot of tax benefits. Please don't do your own taxes ever. I want you to hire an accountant. I promise you it's the best investment you'll make. Okay, moving on to the next question here. Jerome wrote, good morning. Hey, Jerome. When reviewing a company's financial statements, What should be the focus, and how far back in years should we review, and which one should be utilized, the quarterly or annual reports? Yeah, I would look at everything. So step one, what I want you guys to do is you can all, if the company just went public or went public in the past 20 years, step one, I want you to go to sec.gov and I want you to read through the S1 document. The S1 document is created by investment bankers and lawyers, and discloses all the risks in the company, as well as several years of financial statements, some of them quarterly as well. So what I want you to do is create your financial model with all this information from here. Next step, I want you to go to sec.gov and look at the 10K over the past X number of years, as many years back as you can go, so you can really forecast revenue. Now, when you forecast financial statements, it's a lot easier than you think. A lot of people get intimidated by this. You should not. I want you to focus almost all, this is an income statement. I want you to focus almost all your time on forecasting revenue, which is the top line of the income statement. That's why they call it the top line. And if you spend almost all your time, most of your time, on forecasting revenue, okay, then all the red items here, which are expenses, for the most part, become a percent of revenue. And it's really, really easy to forecast. So if you see historically that revenue is growing like this, okay, every year, what's the next year going to be? Well, an object in motion stays in motion. It's probably going to be up here. Okay. So if you forecast, and I'm oversimplifying this for a reason, but if you forecast revenue growth like this, and if you look at all the red expense line items, especially these three here, G&A, S&M, and R&D, and you see that these three line items are going down a little bit every year as a percent of revenue, then you're going to focus on modeling a little bit decline year over year for these bad boys here. So it all drops to the bottom line, okay? And they call this the bottom line net income, because it's the bottom line of the income statement. So as many years as you can. And I'll give you a great example. So back in, I think it was 2007 or so. I think it was 2007, yeah. I started doing a lot of investment research at a hedge fund on Chipotle, CMG, Chipotle Mexican Grill. And Chipotle was spun off from McDonald's. And so what I did was I looked at McDonald's quarterly revenue and income statement over the past 50 years. And then what I did was I actually called McDonald's headquarters at the time in Illinois. And I said to them, I can't get access to your 10Ks before 1980 or so. And so what they did was investor relations emailed me all the previous 10Ks, the annual reports. Right? You have the right to ask them. Anybody can do it, retail investors, etc. And then what I did was I decided based on my analysis that, oh my gosh, Chipotle, from a same-store sales and new store openings perspective, was where McDonald's was in 1962. And that allowed me to forecast and see Chipotle as a 20-bagger. And we did really, really well on that. Okay. So anyway, always look at as many years of financial statements as you can. If you have additional questions or modeling questions, please let me know. Thank you. All right. All right, next question is, when you open the Financials tab in Yahoo Finance, yeah, for Apple, you see the cost of revenue, but there's no COGS. Okay, where do you see COGS from? Yeah, so cost of revenue and the cost of goods sold is the exact same thing. Okay, and in finance, we never memorize this stuff. We understand it so that we always remember it. And you don't want to memorize this stuff. You want to understand it. Otherwise, you'll get a D in accounting like I did when I took it at McGill University back in 1991. I had to take it again. I did a little bit better. Okay, I want you to understand this stuff. Kind of like how revenue and sales is the same thing. And kind of like how net income, net profits, and earnings is the same thing as well. Understand this stuff. And when you look at financial statements, I want you to rearrange the formulas as well. It's a lot of fun, right? And understand why things are called what they're called. So this here is a balance sheet. This is when you need three hands, Chris. So in a balance sheet, assets equals liabilities plus equities, and it has to balance. And you can always rearrange this formula. So for example, you could say that liabilities equals assets minus equity, which makes sense because you're liable to pay back the stuff you own minus the debt, minus the amount the debt equals what you own minus the equity. Okay, I kind of butchered that, but I think you guys get the idea. So always rearrange formulas to thoroughly understand it. Last thing I'll say on formulas when it comes to finance, accounting, or anything in general, what I want you to do for the rest of your life is whenever you see a fraction, I always want you to assume that the denominator is the number 1. Okay. So price earnings. So if a company has a PE of 10, that means for every $1 in earnings per share in this denominator, investors are paying 10 times that $1. Okay. All formulas think of the denominator as being the number 1. If a company is growing faster, then it's going to trade at more than 10 times, maybe 20 times. And so investors might be willing to pay 20 times that $1. Okay. Next question is there a row net income for common stockholders? Is this net income? It is, but there's different types of net income, and I'll explain this very quickly. So there's what's called GAAP and non-GAAP financial statements. So you mentioned Apple. Let's go to sec.gov. Okay. Actually, let's do Oracle. They just reported. Oracle, big software company. Okay. So we're going to go to Oracle's results. They reported 2 or 3 days ago. So when companies report earnings, they provide you with 2 sets of financial statements. Okay. Let's go to the press release for Oracle. So they provide you with GAAP and non-GAAP. Okay, so GAAP is what accountants like to look at. It includes non-cash crap like depreciation, amortization, stock-based compensation. And non-GAAP is higher here. Okay, and you can always scroll down to look at the financial statements here and to also look at a reconciliation between GAAP and non-GAAP. Finance people love looking at non-GAAP like me because it's easier to forecast financial statements that way. And then you can see down here what the net income is based on GAAP and non-GAAP. Non-GAAP is usually a lot higher. We see here with Oracle for the quarter ended February 28th, they made $4.2 billion, okay, in net income on a non-GAAP perspective, but only $2.9 billion on a GAAP perspective. And I can go into more details on that if you want me to. Now, when companies issue stock options, from a GAAP perspective, that's expensed, which makes net income less. But that's bogus because it doesn't cost the money to issue. It doesn't cost the company to issue shares, right? It costs them nothing. So when you look at non-GAAP financial statements, meaning what finance people like me look at, you're going to add that back. I know it's a little bit complicated. I can go into more details on that if you guys want me to. Thanks. Let me get some coffee. A bit tired here. Okay. All right. Next question is, what percentage of your portfolio should be real estate and farming land? Yeah. So I recommend, if you're talking about residential real estate, like to rent out houses and stuff, I like that much better than land. And I'll tell you why. So the tax code in almost every country allows you to depreciate the stuff above the land, but not the land itself, because land can't be depreciated because in the long run it always goes up in value. But if you build a house on top of the land, of course, the house goes down in value year over year because, wear and tear gets old. So I prefer to invest in residential real estate. Now, you can usually depreciate the stuff above the land for residential real estate it's usually around 27 or 28 years, depending on what country you're in. Whereas commercial real estate, it's usually closer to 40 years. So I like residential real estate investments better than commercial. With land, of course, you can't depreciate it. All right, next question is, do you recommend investing in stocks and ETFs of companies in Brazil, Japan, India, Canada, and Europe? Yes. You can't just be exposed to the U.S. economy. I know things might look better in the U.S. versus the rest of the world right now, but you got to be globally diversified because if you only buy U.S. stocks, you're too exposed to one economy and you're too exposed to the U.S. dollar. Yeah. So I like diversification. Now, if you want to look at diversifying into different ETFs for different countries, you can always go to, I've gone to this website a couple times. It's free, etfdb.com. I'll show you, etfdb.com. And then what you can do is you can slice and dice and look at ETFs by geography. So for example, for Canada, you can invest, there's 458 ETFs here. You can invest in EWC. For Brazil, you can invest in EWZ or EWZ as we say it in Canada. Right? And this will get you a lot of exposure to natural resources. Now, I got to go off topic here. This is fascinating. Brazil is such a massive economy. It's a huge country too. that the north of Brazil is closer to Canada than it is to the south of Brazil. And Brazil is so wide that the east coast of Brazil is closer to Africa than to the west coast. Yeah. And this is part of the BRICS economies. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And then also there's South Africa. So there's an S on the end of that as well. Those are kind of growth markets. Yeah. For the most part. All right. Next question is, if EPS, meaning earnings per share, okay, net income divided by the number of shares a company has outstanding, if EPS is expected to be $4 US after 5 years, okay, this is $4 in 5 years, and consistent growth rate of earnings is 25% every year, does that mean that the price should be 4 times $25, meaning $100 now? What is the reasoning? Yeah, no, it means this. Okay, so the way that I value companies and I forecast financial statements is similar to what you just mentioned there. So if you're saying that earnings per share is growing 25% every year, and in year 5 it's going to be at $25 in earnings, then that means that I think the stock in 4 years should, or 4 or 5 years, should be valued at 25 times $25. Because 25% growth. Alexa, 25 times 25.
25 times 25 is 625.
So the stock price should be $625. How did I get to that number? Well, you buy stocks and you value stocks based on their earnings growth rate in the long run. So the S&P, and this is very, very rough math, but the S&P 500 historically trades at a price earnings multiple of 15 times. And the average S&P 500 company has earnings growing at 15%. So if you take the math of 15 PE divided by 15% earnings growth, that's 1. That's price earnings to growth rate of 1. Now, if a company in the S&P 500 had earnings growing at 20%, it should trade at more than 15 times, probably trade at 20 times. And therefore, if you forecast a company and you think that their earnings growth between year 4 and 5 is going to be 25%, and you're forecasting $25 in earnings per share in year 5, then the target price should be over $600 in 5 years once we get there. Yeah. Okay, and when I used to work in the hedge fund industry, a really simplistic way to come up with short ideas, and there's many ways to do it, is if a company's PE is way too high relative to its growth rate, then it might be a short, and vice versa. So I'll give you an example. If a company has earnings growing at 10% every year, and it's trading at 20 times earnings, then that means the price earnings divided by the growth rate is 2. It's got a PEG, price earnings growth rate, of 2. Therefore, it could be a short. Conversely, if it's trading at a PEG, price earnings growth rate, well under 1, then it could be a long. And obviously, there's other things you got to look at before you're looking at going long or short a stock. Okay. Next question. Microsoft and Meta. Are they still growth companies? I'd say yes, but growth is slowing a lot for them. So they will soon become growth at a reasonable price, meaning GARP, and then eventually value. Okay. And it's hard to grow a big company. Like the United States is the biggest company on the planet, so to speak. And there's a reason why revenue for the country, meaning GDP sort of, will never grow at more than, say, 2 or 3% on a normalized basis. It's just so big. And so you got to be really, really careful when you're investing in growth stocks if growth slows a lot. And I'll explain why. There's 2 camps of investors. There's value investors like Warren Buffett, like to buy cheap stuff. That's, stuff's not growing that fast, but it's cheap. Then there's growth investors like myself that like to buy stuff that looks expensive right now, but it's not expensive if I look at my earnings estimates in 5 or 10 years. So it's like religion. Or politics gets very contentious. Value investors can't see eye to eye with growth investors and vice versa. You're either a value investor or a growth investor. Now, this is what's deadly about this. Every growth company, eventually there's a law of large numbers, can't grow anymore, right? Like the United States, it used to be a growth economy, now it's a value economy, sort of. So every growth stock eventually would transition to value. And in between, it takes sometimes 10 years to go from growth to value. And so it might be categorized as growth at a reasonable price for a while. Don't ever invest in a company that's stuck between growth and value, because I refer to that as investment purgatory. Why? Because the growth investors don't want to buy it because it's not growing fast enough. And the value investors don't want to buy it over here because it's not cheap enough yet. So don't ever, the chances of this company here that's in between growth and value becoming value in the next couple of quarters is very, very low. It can take a decade. Now, what activist investors like Carl Icahn do is quite often they take companies that are stuck in the middle and they make them usually value, or they split the company up into two pieces to unlock shareholder value. Let me give you a classic example. So eBay, many years ago, a lot of investors were confused about eBay and they didn't want to own it. And it was undervalued. And the reason they didn't was because eBay had two main components. One was the auction place business, which is counter-cyclical, and people might buy more stuff or sell more stuff during recessions. So it throws off a lot of cash. Value investors love that, the auction business of eBay. But there was also PayPal before they spun it off. Growth investors loved it because it was growing like a weed. Now, investors were really confused with eBay because, you're either a growth investor or a value investor for the most part. So nobody wanted to buy it. So what happened was Carl Icahn, who's an activist, aggressive investor, what he did was he bought a big stake in the company, okay, eBay. And when you buy a big stake in a company, like 30%, you can get a board seat, of course. So he muscled his way onto the board, got rid of the management team, including John Donahoe, who I've met many, many times. He used to be a Bain consultant. The guy's really, really tall. He pushed him out, just like Nike pushed him out recently, it's sad. And then what Icahn did was he split eBay up into two pieces, okay? He split it up into eBay, it's just called eBay, which is the sleepy, value-based auction business. And then the other part, he split up into PayPal, which is the growth business. And then the market cap of PayPal and eBay after the breakup was way higher than when eBay was just one company composed of a value and a growth asset. So the bottom line is this. Don't ever invest in a company if you think it's stuck in no man's land, meaning transitioning between growth and value. All right. All right. Ray wrote, how do you evaluate a company if you don't expect the company to be profitable after 5 years? Yeah. In that case, you're probably going to look at years 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, for example. Right. So what you can do is right now, you can value the company based on price to revenue. Now, price divided by earnings and price divided by revenue is pretty similar. Okay. So you value the company right now based on price divided by revenue. And what that means is, remember the denominator is number one. For every $1 in revenue, what are investors willing to pay price-wise? And it all depends on the growth rate and the sector as well. And I'll give you a great example. The summer of 2012, there was 3 great IPOs I participated in. And those 3 companies weren't really that profitable. And those IPOs were Splunk, ticker SPLK, which Cisco bought last year. Also ServiceNow, ticker NOW. As well as Workday, ticker WDAY. And since these companies weren't very profitable, the only way to value them today, based on this year's numbers or next year's numbers, was to look at price to revenue. Now, at that time, cloud-based or software high-growth companies like these 3, the going valuation was 15 to 20 times revenue. So that's the multiple we slapped on them when we were valuing them then. So it all depends on what other similar companies are valued at using a price to revenue multiple. Now, I think a much better way to value companies like that is to look at what you think the earnings estimates or the earnings will be in 7, 8, or 9, or 10 years. And then, as I mentioned earlier today, you look at the growth rate between, say, years 9 and 10, value the company based on your earnings growth rate in 10 years, and then discount it to today's terms. Yeah. All right. Oh, you're most welcome, Ray. All right, please type your questions, everybody. Oh, there's lots of questions. Good, keep them coming. I love it. This is fun. I can't believe this is week 309. I'm never going to stop doing this, ever. Yeah. Okay. Next question is Tommy J. Reminds me of Tommy John, who should be in the Hall of Fame. Tommy J wrote, what is your personal experience opinion on the CFA certification and what career path is it best suited for? Yeah. So the CFA stands for Certified Financial Analyst Designation. It's a 3-year program you take where you just write one exam each year on like a Saturday. And there's three components to it. Year one is kind of like a repeat of MBA finance, right? Stuff you learn in MBA school. Then 2 and 3 is much more advanced. There's a lot of options, compliance stuff, qualitative stuff, as well as bonds, etc. I think it's much better to get a CFA than it is to get an MBA because it's much more comprehensive. And a lot of people will get a CFA so that they can work on Wall Street or on Bay Street in Canada or different financial centers around the world. The highest concentration of CFAs on the planet per capita is in Toronto, where I'm from, proudly from. Yeah. I think it'll help you a lot. Now, for those of you not sure if you should get a CFA or any graduate degree, you can always just go to LinkedIn and do a search on people that hold these designations and see if it helped them with their career. Now, I don't want anybody to waste money on graduate school without first doing the following. Okay. So graduate school costs $100,000, right? A lot of times for an MBA. And a lot of people do an MBA at a traditional school because they want to change careers. So what I want you to do is this. Set up 100 informational meetings, leveraging LinkedIn and the stuff I teach you about in my programs, and try to change careers. If you can't, then get a traditional MBA or traditional degree. $100,000. So each meeting that you do, all 100 meetings, saves you $1,000, so to speak. Next question is, Boss wrote, hi, Chris, I love the MBA program. Thank you. I've had so much fun creating it. Can't believe it. We launched it last decade, and it's surreal. Surreal. Yeah. And I've got a very, very big announcement next week regarding the MBA program. You guys are going to love. Yeah. All right. I'll announce it in next week's webcast. All right. Next up, Nadanga wrote, hey, Chris, is there a quicker way to create financial models to compare companies? Like, it takes me around 1 to 3 days on average to do a DCF. Yeah, discounted cash flow, it's garbage. The reason that valuing a company using DCF is garbage is because there's too many unknown variables. Like if I told you that, I don't know, x plus 3 equals 5, right? X plus 3 equals 5. What is X? It's 2. If I told you X plus 3 plus 5 plus brick plus house plus pencil equals 3, what is X? We have no idea. Garbage in, garbage out. And that's what DCF is. Because 95% of the valuation you come up with is predicated on your terminal value. I can talk about that in more details if you want me to. So a better way to value companies really quickly, which has worked out tremendously well for me humbly in my investing career, is you create a financial statement that's mainly predicated on the income statement, okay? And you look at pro forma financials, meaning non-GAAP, kind of like that Oracle 8K I showed you about 10 minutes ago in this webcast. And so you only forecast the non-cash stuff. So you'll notice here, I don't have any depreciation or amortization or stock-based compensation. And so what you're going to do is you're going to forecast this. Of course, if the company has a lot of debt, you can account for that. But mainly forecast this, okay? And debt will actually be incorporated into interest payments here. And then what's going to happen is you're going to value the company based on your earnings estimates many years from now and slap on the appropriate PE multiple. Now, in the long run, for you finance purists out there, you value investors, net income and cash flow converge in the very, very long run. This is the most simplistic and accurate way, in my humble opinion, based on my 30 plus years of experience, to value any company. Yeah. Okay, next question is, what camera do you recommend for streaming and making videos? Yeah. Oof. Tell you what, I'd probably start with a Canon 5D. That's what I would start with. That's how I got started as well, right? And you can't just use a webcam because the image processor size on a webcam is the size of your thumbnail versus on, say, a DSLR camera, like a Canon 5D, is a lot bigger, right? So what I use is actually, I have a couple of cinema cameras here where there's lots of levers I can pull to make sure the user experience is much, much better. These things are expensive, but you can get the same look and feel with a DSLR camera, like a Canon 5D, if you want to. And if you're in my MBA degree program, we can do our weekly 3-hour Zoom call later today, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I'll walk through whatever equipment you have and help you. And in my MBA degree program, we cover that in a lot of detail as well. And I don't want you to buy any equipment. I want you to focus on what you have right now, as long as you don't have a webcam, before you waste any money. Yeah. Okay. All right. And if you want, you can also get a cheaper DSLR. You can get a lot of Sony cameras as well. That will cost you just under $1,000. Yeah. And a good lens will cost you maybe $300 or $400. All right. Next up, Mindy wrote, hey, Chris, I saw a TikTok that theorized the government is creating a crypto stockpile in order to move the national debt there. Ooh. Can you explain this in depth? Yeah. Yeah. I don't expect that to happen. Because the reason why I don't expect it to happen is because if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? So the United States government has been making this exact same product since 1934. So in 1934, this looked exactly like it looks today. And monopolies, are lazy. They don't have to innovate because there's no competition for this thing, right? And so the United States government printed about 50% more of this stuff between COVID and today. And I know that Trump is worried about the national debt, but the reality is that the United States government is always going to be the lender of the last resorts. And the United States government will never go out of business. Everything is relative. It's all relative. Yeah. So I don't see why there'd be incentive to do that. Now, I do think that Trump is creating a strategic reserve system whereby he's going to invest in other asset classes, maybe including Bitcoin as well. And I humbly believe that Bitcoin at some point in my life, maybe 100 years from now, will reach $1 million. I'm very confident of that, only because of supply and demand. Now, with traditional, fiat-based cash, which is trash, there's unlimited supply. But when it comes to Bitcoin, there's a limited supply. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin by the year 2140. And so just using basic supply and demand, of course, Bitcoin's going to go up in the long run. It's like digital gold. Yeah. And as other countries, in this ridiculous trade war that's going on right now, which I'm vehemently against, but if other countries, start to favor other currencies and not the US dollar, what do they put in their strategic reserves? Well, China's buying a lot of Bitcoin. They have been. I expect them to continue to do so. It's like gold. Yeah. Whenever there's fear, people buy gold. Yeah. Okay. All right. But I do believe that at some point, the United States dollar will be morphed into some kind of a more secure digital version of itself, right? And if you think about it, what is money? Like, I don't really, it's rare that I actually have cash in my hand unless I'm teaching. Everything is digital for me anyway. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Ishar. How are you? Montero wrote, wouldn't he want to sell the put if he wants to own the stock? Yeah, I'm not sure what that's based on there, but yeah. But if you want, we can talk options as well. Yeah. All right. Yaswanth wrote, hey, Chris, what is the best place to go to get into finance, New York or San Francisco as an international student, as well as how to start a hedge fund as an immigrant? Does your MBA program help me to start one? Absolutely. So I'm an immigrant from Canada. I'm proudly Canadian and I'm proudly American as well. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area and I started a hedge fund. And I started the hedge fund the day I got my green card. Yeah. But I'd be careful with San Francisco if you want to work in finance, because there's not that many jobs here in finance compared to New York. It's like saying, I want to be an actor. Where should you live? Hollywood. I want to work in finance. Where should you live? New York, that sort of thing. And my MBA program will help you get a job as well, but it comes with networking. And for anybody out there that wants to transition to work in the finance industry or any other career, don't send your resume in, because every time you see a job opening online, you have a 1 in 250 chance of getting that job. And the person that gets that job knows somebody at the company. There is a better way. Step 1, create an amazing LinkedIn profile, which I help you with in my MBA degree program. We also have consulting services to help you with that. Step 2, set up mini networking meetings leveraging LinkedIn. And with 30 or 40 people at each company you want to work at. Step 3, in these networking meetings, I want you to bond. Okay, talk about what you have in common with these people. And then after a little while in that meeting, they're going to ask you, why are we meeting? and then just say, I'd love to understand, please, what it's like a day in life in your career. They'll talk about it. Then I want you to ask them this. Are you hiring? Please hire me. I'll work for free initially, whatever. Remember, closed mouths don't get fed. And all this stuff I teach you in a lot more detail in my MBA degree program. My success rate, humbly, that's a Canadian about to brag, sorry. My success rate in getting meetings with people I've never met before, leveraging LinkedIn, and my methodology for networking has always been 95%. And I don't say that to impress you. Rather, I say it to impress upon you the fact that it works if you follow my methodology. And for all my many students, thousands of students that have taken my MBA degree program since last decade and graduated, I always say this. I can take you to the water, but I can't force you to drink. You have to practice this stuff that I teach you. And my new MBA degree programs, meaning my MBA Accelerator, as well as my MBA Executive Program, I have daily Zoom calls with the class. It's much more exclusive. You can learn more about it by going to my website if you want to. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up. Eileen, how are you? Eileen Deo Gracias. I love your last name. So Eileen was one of my first students, back in 2019. She's from Atlanta. I met with her before she came out here as well to my annual networking event. She's got the best last name ever. It's Deo Gracias, which means thank God. Eileen, good to see you. So Eileen wrote, happy Thursday, Chris. Good to see you. Hope your kids are doing well in college. And Norbert, your husband's doing well. You wrote, I recommended your webcast to my friend who I found out is helping out an orphanage in Tanzania. I love it. I told her that she should watch your webcast as you both have the same mission. I love it. I love it. And what I do, the reason I do what I do, I don't have to humbly work. The reason I do what I do is because I want to build schools, man. So I want to build 1,000 schools in my lifetime. Okay, with a lot of profit. So I'm building one right now in Kenya with my students. And I built one, we finished a couple of years ago in Rwanda with another one of my students. So I'm going to build 1,000 of these schools. And to build 1,000 of them, it's going to cost me maybe $100,000 per school if I do it right. So 1,000 times $100,000 is $100 million. If I was a quota-carrying sales rep, I'd be fired so many times, At least I'm honest. But I'm going to get it done. And as James Cameron, a wonderful Canadian director, writer, producer, etc., said, if you set your goals really high and you fail, you still fail above everyone's expectations. I believe that education can fix every single problem in the world. Yeah. Please connect me with your friend, and I will build a school in your friend's country as well. Okay. All right, next up, Caroline from France, who now lives in New Brunswick. Good morning. Good morning to you as well. Looking forward to seeing you at 10 a.m. today as well for our weekly Zoom. Okay, and Arda, who's new on the call, I haven't seen you before, hope you join us again, wrote, hi, Chris and everyone. Good to see you. All right, Manos, who's one of my silver MBA students from Calcutta, wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. Chris, please. A lot to ask this week. Go for it. Thank you. I'm on the 250th weekly webcast. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Can't believe it's week 309. You wrote, Claude AI CEO, and for those of you not familiar with Claude AI, it's like ChatGPT. It's not accessible in every country though. But what you do is you upload documents to it and you can analyze documents quickly. Yeah. So you wrote, Claude AI CEO said, in a year, most software guys are going to be free as AI will be far more better at programming than junior and mid-level people. Zuck repeats the same. What do you think? Yeah. So Mark Zuckerberg's been letting a lot of people go recently and replacing with AI. Now, this is going to sound out there, okay? But Jensen Huang, who's the brilliant founder and CEO of NVIDIA, he said that students should not study computer science anymore in school. And he said that because AI is the perfect replacement tool for programmers, right? And I've used it a lot too, and I program a lot on the side. I'm a nerd. It's unbelievable. And I've actually cut back the number of developers I hire over Upwork and other places because of this. So what should you study? Well, Jensen Huang argues that you should study liberal arts. And he thinks that the United States education system is going to surpass the rest of the world in the next decade or so. And the reason Jensen Huang says this is because in the United States, unlike other countries, in the United States, when you go to university, you don't declare a major. You do liberal arts. And then you declare a major in maybe your second or third year of university. Other countries don't have this. So why does he think that the U.S. educational system is going to surpass the rest of the world? Because he says that you need to think creatively and think differently, as Steve Jobs used to say. And the best way to do this, to think differently and challenge your mind, is to study the liberal arts. And it's no coincidence that Steve Jobs at Apple, God bless him, used to always say that Apple lives at the intersection of technology and liberal arts. Yeah. And I tend to agree with that. I think that a lot of these tech jobs will be outsourced. But I still teach you programming, meaning in Python, as well as Microsoft Excel, and tons of AI products in the mini electives in my MBA degree program as well. Yeah. Let me actually show you very quickly, okay? Okay, so I'm going to go to my my website, harounmba.com, and then I'll go to products and services, MBA degree. Okay, so I've got 3 programs, okay? I've got the MBA Accelerator, Executive, and the Diamond MBA program. All 3 of these you can start today. So the MBA Accelerator, you get access to my MBA degree program, which is close to 500 hours, plus 30 of my MBA electives, plus daily, that's right, daily Zoom calls with me, group Zoom calls. So that's 350 hours of daily calls throughout the year. Now, Executive is just like Accelerator, except you also get 3 hours of one-on-ones with me. And then Diamond is just like Executive, except you get 10 hours of one-on-ones with me. And all this stuff includes meetings in person with me, as well as access to my annual events. My next event is going to be here in the Bay Area. We're going to be in Napa Valley as well on September 27th. For more details, email support@harounventures.com or go to the link in the description of this video here to set up a one-on-one with one of my team members. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, N.A.K. Keen wrote, Bonjour, Chris. Bonjour. Je veux faire le classe matinée. Yeah. All right. And then you wrote, what's one thing I can do today to step outside of my comfort zone? Yeah. So we are always our own biggest enemies. Okay. Whether or not you think you can do something, you're right. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why is there self-sabotage? Because you have too much free time. And if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. Stay busy always. And you can stay busy by scheduling each day in advance, which is one of the many templates I provide you with my MBA degree program. Now, when it comes to imposter syndrome, which a lot of us have, okay, I get it. We're perfectionists. You're doing it to yourself. We're all doing it to ourselves. I want you to be like the Rodin sculpture. I think, therefore I am. I want you to think that you're insanely confident, and you will be. Because confidence leads to perceived competence. It'll help you out tremendously in your life. And I want you to have confidence and just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, and you will reach your full potential in life. You'll be miserable if you're always questioning yourself and thinking, are people judging me? They're not judging you. People aren't judging you because they've got their own crap they're thinking about in their own heads. They're insecure as well. Or I should say they're insecure. So what I want you to do is just focus on understanding that nobody is smarter than you. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that wholeheartedly. That I licensed this very short video from Steve Jobs that I'm going to play. I'm going to take a very quick break, and I'll be right back. And this will change your life.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world. Try not to bash into the walls too much. Try to have a nice family life. Have fun. Save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
I'm now going to show you a chart that's going to change your life as well. Okay, so I'm going to use the back of one of my props here. And by the way, Silicon Valley was founded because of these guys. I can tell you the story if you want. So here's the chart. You ready? Let's do this. Okay. On this axis here, let me go over here, is your age. Okay? Your age. And on this axis here, and I'm going to draw this. This will be fun. Okay, let's do this from scratch. Okay, so this here is your age. Okay, and this here is give a damn. Okay, when you're younger, this is fun. When you're younger, you're down here, okay? You don't really care what people think of you. You know, you have meltdowns in restaurants. You couldn't give a damn. Like my kids, when they were younger, they didn't have any confidence issues. Okay. Then when you're older, like me up here, you also don't give a damn. Old people usually don't have confidence problems. The problem is this. When you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, teenage, whatever, up here, you care what people think of you. And this is a dangerous, dangerous place to live. And I want you to avoid this triangle of despair at all costs. What I want you to do is this. I want you to live your life at this level here, okay? And this is where all the best entrepreneurs in the world live. You know, whether it's Steve Jobs, God bless him, Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, etc. They live at this level. I want you to stop giving a damn what people think of you. Okay, I'm not saying be rude or disingenuous, but just don't give a damn what people think. Like for me, I don't care if people criticize me because I'm a teacher. I don't care. I don't care that people criticize me because of my awful hair dye. I've been gray since my 20s. When I worked at Goldman Sachs, I used to say, Chris Haroun's going gray, but that's okay, because I was always chill. I also don't care if people find out that I love video games. I do. And when GTA 6 comes out later this year, which is going to cost $100, I hear, you ain't going to see me for a month. I'm 53 years old, a 53-year-old man-child, and I love video games. You're damn right I do. I want you to all live at this level. And the only way to really find true happiness and purpose and passion in your life is to live at this level and not care what people think. It's the subtle art of not giving a damn. So how do you do that? Well, I'm going to give you an exercise right now that's going to change your life. Okay. I want you to all get a piece of paper and a pen. And if you meet me in real life, I'm a tiny, tiny man with the worst dad humor ever. And what I want you to do is this, please. I want you to write this down. Ready? Please do this. Please. I want you to write this down. I don't care what people think of X. 10 times. Then fill in the blank for X. Okay, so turn off this webcast. Stop watching me right now. There's more important things in life than watching me. I want to boost your confidence. That's what matters most to me. I don't care what people think of X. So I don't care what people think of me and the fact that I have a ginormous nose that is so huge, but it's very aerodynamic when I ski, so I can kick everyone's butt in skiing. And it's so big that when I put makeup on, powder, I run out of these things daily. Maybe I'm beautiful. Maybe it's Maybelline. Please tell me someone understood that joke. I don't care that people find out that I love video games. I don't care that people find out that when I was younger, I had a massive, massive Smurf collection. And I used to put them in my mom's legs, pantyhose, egg containers. Remember those things? I don't care. I want you to be the same way. Take this exercise seriously, please. I promise you it will change your life. Okay. And I see that only 3 people logged off this webcast when I said, turn me off and start doing that exercise. I want to see that number go down. I want more people to get off this webcast and do that exercise. I don't care what people think of X. And by doing this exercise, what it will do is it will let you live your life in your own terms because you're confident and you're not being distracted by all the filth you put in your own head when it comes to caring what people think of you. What I also want you to do is I want you to cut off all people in your life that bring you down. I want you to fire your friends that aren't real friends, the ones that hurt your confidence. You know, when I was younger, I would basically give my friends 5 chances. 5 strikes, you're out. That's how we say it in Canada. It's not out, Americans. It's out. I want it to be 1 strike now for all of you. I want you to fire all the friends you have in your life that bring you down, that hurt your confidence. Anything that causes you not to live at that low level of being happy per that chart I just showed you. I want you to be happy. Don't you want to be happy? And the most important lesson that a teacher can teach a student, or a parent can teach a child, or a boss can teach, what one of their subordinates, is confidence. Because with confidence, you can do anything. And so with my kids, since the day they were born, I say the 2 things to them, and they complete the sentence. It's like Pavlov's dog. I say this: you never, and they immediately say, give up. And you always finish, and they immediately say what you start. So build confidence in them. And for those of you that manage people, make sure that you praise in public and only criticize in private. Okay, I'm rambling here, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Yeah, but I really do believe that. I want you all to be confident and happy. And this is controversial about America. Okay. So I remember growing up in the 1980s in Canada. 80s was the best decade ever. I loved it. And I remember that the cover of Time, Newsweek, etc. was the downfall of the American student. And I read reports all the time that say American students are 50th in the world in math, 50th in the world in science, etc. But I started teaching in America here during the evenings. I was a professor at a couple schools, universities. And I realized something. When I taught here in the Bay Area, and mind you, 50% of all my students were born outside the United States. But I realized that American students, regardless of where they're born, American students are number 1 in the world in the most important economic category that nobody talks about. They're number 1 in confidence. And with confidence, you can sell. And sales is the most important skill you can possibly have. With confidence, you can put a dent in the universe. With confidence, you can do anything. With confidence, you can be like Michael Jordan, who said, I've failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. You only have to be right in business 1 time. And the only way to really develop confidence, per this chart here, is to live at this level and not give a damn what people think of you. That's how you reach your full potential. That's the only way. So starting today, per the exercise I gave you, for the rest of your life, you're going to believe in yourself, and you're not going to give a damn what people think of you either. Okay? Remember, I don't care what people think of X. Okay? Do that 10 times. I love what I do. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, if you were 22 again, and by the way, the average life expectancy today is 26 years longer than it was in the 1950s. So I'm not 53, I'm 27. Yeah, so we can all start over. And there are people on this call that will live to 150 years old. I'm convinced of it. Yeah, don't let age ever get in the way. So you wrote, if you're 22 years old again, and you're a young graduate from MIT, will you apply as a software engineer, or will you teach programming or make money? Yeah. So here's what I recommend to everybody on this call. If you're not happy doing what you're doing, then I want you to change careers, and I want to help you do it. So what should you do? Well, here's an exercise for you. Let's say I give you 30 days off starting today. And in these 30 days, you're not allowed to work, you cannot travel, you cannot go to school. What are you going to do with your time? Whatever that is your passion, your purpose, your raison d'être, and you should immediately start figuring out how to change careers to do that. I want you to be happy. I want you to live every day to its fullest. I want you to smell the roses along the way and not work our asses off so that we can be happy in the last 10 years of our life. I want to help you change careers. So if you guys want, type what would you do in the chat. What would you do in the next 30 days? If you can't work, go to school, or travel. Type it in the chat there. I want to see your answers. Let's get some dialogue going here. Yeah. And if you also aren't sure what you want to do in life, what you can also do is this. You can listen to Audible books on audible.com from very successful business people. Listen to books by Sir Richard Branson, who oozes positivity, or Oprah Winfrey, or, Bill Gates. And if you're inspired by them, listening to them, then maybe pursue a career that they had, that sort of thing. If you truly love doing what you're doing, you're going to be more productive. And you will make money, I promise you. If you chase money, you lose your money and your dreams. But if you chase your dreams and you don't give a damn what people think of you, something beautiful happens. Your dreams come true and the money follows accidentally. It always does. And I get it. It's tough early on. We have to make money to support our family. But I really want you to believe in yourself and chase your dreams. And like Michael Jordan, understand that you're going to fail over and over and over again. You only have to be right in business one time. Okay. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, do you think most beginner jobs will be replaced by AI in the next decade? How will the world change? Also, don't you think AI can model better and code better and write better in everything? Yeah. I think that anything repetitive will be replaced by AI. That's for sure. But I want you all to embrace AI and use that as a disruptor for you. And I'm going to show you actually 2 ways I use AI to help my business. Okay. Embrace this stuff. Be like Netflix. Try to disrupt yourself. Netflix used to be a DVD subscription service. You get DVDs in mail. But they thought longer term. They thought, in 10 years, will this business be relevant? No. So they disrupt themselves with streaming business. And they even tried to sell themselves to Blockbuster for $50 million. And Blockbuster laughed at them. Blockbuster is now bankrupt. So I'm going to show you how I use AI and how I'm beta testing how I use AI as well. Bear with me. I'm going to pull this up. But there's something confidential I can't show you. So give me a second. Okay. This is pretty cool what I'm about to show you. Okay, here we go. Okay, great. Excellent. I can do it now. All right. So what I'm about to show you, okay, it's not me. It's AI me. And I've had a conversation with myself as well, and it freaks me out. So let me play.
Today's digital age, optimizing user acquisition is crucial, and Pixis is... Imagine a world where technology brings your vision to life. At Pixis, we're...
Okay. And I'm going to show you 2 more of me doing it in French and in Spanish. And this is not me. This is AI version of me. Here we go.
Dans l'ère numérique actuelle, l'optimisation de l'acquisition d'utilisateurs est essentielle et Pixis est à la pointe avec l'IA générative.
And here's me doing Spanish. And I can't say anything in Spanish except for Yo quiero Taco Bell. Here we go.
La IA generativa está revolucionando la productividad creativa al inspirar y generar rápidamente activos creativos. Esta tecnología acelera el proceso creativo, permitiendo iteraciones rápidas y...
Oh my God, I hate my voice in different languages more than in English even. Yeah. So I'm thinking of ways to disrupt myself. I also use AI a lot for customer service. So my customer service expenses went down like 98%. I now pay $20 a month for customer service. I'm going to show you how. Okay. So if we go here to learn.harounventures.com, okay, where people buy my courses, in the bottom left-hand corner here, this bot right here is AI. And it's based on, the thousands of hours of this stuff I've done with you, as well as the SRT, meaning closed caption files, for my courses. You can ask any questions here. So I'm really excited about AI and what the future entails. I'm not going to fear this. I'm going to embrace it. And the same Luddites, or skeptics, I should say, that thought the world was going to change and we were all lose our jobs because of Google coming out in 98 or 99 beta, are saying the same thing now with AI. And the same skeptics said in late 2001, when Wikipedia came out, that, you wouldn't need to go to school anymore. The same skeptics are negative about this. Have a positive attitude about AI. Embrace it. See how you can use it as your competitive weapon. I certainly am, and it's fun. Yeah. And in my MBA program, I teach you everything about AI as well, and how to use AI in order to make you much more successful. Now, I'm going to do a very quick exercise that is going to help you all with your interviews. Okay. It's also going to help you when you go to ask your boss for a raise. And what I'm going to do is we're going to use AI together to turn your biggest weakness into your strength. Okay, let's do this. This will be fun. And instead of using ChatGPT for fun, I'm going to use DeepSeek while we still can. Okay. So let's say that your biggest weakness is, I don't know, your grades weren't that good. So let's type this here really fast. Okay. I have interview. My weakness is my grades sucked because I had part-time jobs. Make that a strength. Response. 2 sentences. Max. Okay, let's see what it says. You got an interview. Your grades sucked. This is me buying time while it's thinking here. So how do you answer that? How do you turn that weakness into a strength? Well, you can say this. While my grades weren't perfect, balancing part-time jobs taught me exceptional time management, resilience, and the ability to prioritize effectively, skills that have made me a stronger and more disciplined professional. That's pretty effing powerful, man. So I want you all to know that your weaknesses are actually your strengths. If you spin it and sell it the right way, use AI for this, please. Yeah. Okay, let's move on now to the next question. Okay, Eileen wrote, can you please show us how to compare stocks on Yahoo Finance? I'm interested in how the SPY and Qs influence the Magnificent Seven. Yeah, Magnificent Seven are the biggest 7 tech stocks, including Tesla, if that's a tech stock. Yeah. Yeah. So all you have to do, and never pay for any finance research. I was sponsored by Seeking Alpha. I broke that sponsorship because I felt like it's not fair. They're pitching stocks. I want you guys to decide for yourself. I'm not sponsored by anybody, nor will I ever be. I'm here to teach you. You're my customer. Okay. So I'm going to type in here SPY, which is one of the ETFs. Okay. So what you can always do, Eileen, is you can always go to holdings here to see what the biggest holdings are in different indexes, right? And so we can see here, this is tech heavy. You know, most of the Magnificent Seven comprise the top 10 here. We can always go to the Qs, which is the technology stocks within the NASDAQ, and look right here. And in terms of influence, per your question, we can see right here, you know, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft are, you know, 9, 8, and 8% respectively as a percent of this index here. Hope that answers your question. Thanks. All right. Moving on to Manas. I knew this question was going to come up. Justin Trudeau is out. Yes, the Prime Minister of Canada. And I've been so critical of him over the years. I'm glad he stepped down, but I got to say, I started to love him in the past couple of weeks based on his speeches, especially when he said, we didn't ask for this war. Yeah, and I'm shocked there's not more questions about that. She wrote, what are your thoughts? Yeah, so Mark Carney, he's a really good guy. So he is the new Prime Minister of Canada. I overlapped with him at Goldman. I was there at the same time. He's a good guy. He understands business. He was the head of the Bank of Canada as well as the Bank of England as well. I think he's the right choice. I wish that Pierre Poilievre, who heads up Progressive Conservative, would win. We just lost a bunch of people there. Okay, let me move on now. Next up, Mac 1111, who's one of my platinum members, wrote, hey, Chris, a company that I own was sold to private equity company and are offering a stock price which is below my cost basis. Would it be an issue if I just held onto those stocks or sell? Yeah. Yeah, it depends. If the company is going to be delisted because a private equity firm bought it, you don't have a say, right? The only reason you might have a say is maybe you do if you own the largest percent of shares outstanding, right? Then from a proxy perspective, you could vote. Yeah. And for those of you who want to learn more about private equity, you can always watch an incredible movie called Other People's Money. Okay, it's with Danny DeVito. It's an oldie but a goodie. Moving on to Tommy, who wrote, how would you go about teaching your children the principles of a capitalist system and the keys to success from a young age? Yeah. So what I did with my kids was, and you should do this with your kids as well. We went to AliExpress.com and we imported stuff and we sold it on eBay. It was a great business model for them. Let me show you how to do this. And I actually made a lot of money doing this as well as a side hustle with my kids years ago from an arbitrage perspective. So AliExpress, which is owned by Alibaba. Okay. Let me do a search in Google on that. I don't know why that happened. AliExpress. Okay, let's go to AliExpress right here. So what you can do is you can buy products that are super, super cheap here and sell them on eBay. But before you do it, make sure to check on eBay to see if somebody is already doing this. Okay. So for example, I don't know, I'm going to make this up here. Electric pressure washer. Okay. This is crazy. Okay. So this will cost you $1.32. It's crazy, I know. And quite often you have to order this in bulk. It's ridiculous, I know. Now, when you order this from AliExpress, which is subsidized by the Chinese government from a postal service perspective, it'll take about 30 days for this stuff to arrive. And then you can list this directly on eBay. Okay? So let me actually see if this is listed on eBay right now. And I'll get back to how I taught my kids business doing exactly this. So I'm going to go here and we'll do a search right here. Come on, eBay. And let's search to see if somebody's already doing this. Okay. Somebody is. Look at that markup. $139. Ooh, that might be a good ARB opportunity for you. Okay. Now let me explain how I did it with my kids and how I taught them capitalism, money, and all that stuff and self-sufficiency. Okay. And I've got 3 boys. They're older now. He's third year at Berkeley, working in investment banking. He's first year at UCSD or Santa Barbara. He's 14 going on 40. All right. So what I did with my kids was this. They wanted to get iPhones. And I didn't want to be that entitled family where they just get iPhones for free. So I made them earn them. So here's what we did. On AliExpress, we imported hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of iPhone cases. They're generic ones. Okay. And it cost us a couple bucks to get each one. We sold them for $9.99. Okay. So our profit margin was $5 after shipping, eBay fees, etc. So what I did was on the fridge in my house, I put 3 pieces of paper. Okay. And then what I did was I taped a pen to the fridge. The 3 pieces of paper was for each kid, Andrew, Matthew, Dylan. And on each piece of paper, there was 200 squares. So whenever we sold a case, they would go and put an X in one of the squares. Now, 200 squares times 5, meaning $5 net profit, is $1,000. They were able to buy their iPhones by doing this. And what they did was they took care of everything. They printed out the shipping label from eBay. They walked up to our mailbox and they put the phone, we only sold it in the United States, put it in the mailbox, then turn the flag up so that the postal dude would pick it up. That's how we did it. That's arbitrage. So try doing that with your kids as well. Another way to teach your kids about business is by playing SimCity, which I played a lot as a kid. That's how I learned about bonds in the 80s, 1987 on my Mac Plus. It was black and white Sims. Okay, SimCity. Okay, moving on to, and also with your kids' friends, man. Like when I was a kid, I'll never forget, I had certain friends. And my mom or dad would say, I don't want you hanging out with them because they do drugs. And I was like, Mom, come on, they don't. Of course they did. So you got to make sure your kids don't hang out with the wrong people. And you as well. At our age, anybody influences you negative, they're fired as friends. They have no purpose in your life. Another thing you got to do with your kids, because weed is legal in the United States, which I don't believe it should be, except for medical purposes. It's ridiculous. But what I also did was in the garage, I built this badass gym. Get your car out of the garage and turn it into a gym. And if the kids love exercise and they care about the body as a temple, then they're less likely to do this stuff. Okay. And my kids have a little brother in me. Yeah. All right. Next up, question is, U.S. stocks now have a PE of more than 35 or 30, whereas China and emerging markets are under 20 or somehow 15. What should be, okay. So, stocks seem expensive right now. Stocks have had an incredible run, but I don't care. I'm very long-term focused, right? I don't care about the path. I care about the destination. And I can tell you with a high degree of confidence that in 20 years, the S&P will be up between 15 and 20% every year. There's going to be big down years. Maybe this year's a big down year. I don't know. But if you focus on the destination and not volatility, you'll sleep at night and you'll make a fortune in the long run. And if all you did, and times are tough, we can't always do this, but if all you did was you took 20 or 25 grand each year and put it in your retirement savings account tax-free, I think it's around 22K in the US now, and you bought ticker VOO, that's the S&P 500 index, then in 20 years, you'd have over $1 million. If your spouse did it as well, in 20 years, you'd have over $2 million. If you took advantage of educational savings accounts with your kids and maxed out each year, then you would have 700 grand per kid in 18 years. So 700 grand times 3 is 2.1 million, plus the 2 million from you and your spouse. That's $4.1 million, plus the appreciation on your house. I get it. We can't do it every year, but that's the mindset I want you to have. Okay. You get to invest as tax-free. Yeah. Yeah. And I maxed out my kids' educational savings accounts years and years ago, humbly. I killed myself working when I was younger. I still do now, but I love doing what I'm doing. Okay. Question about Palantir's valuation. So what you have to do, Manas, is you have to look at what you think earnings growth is going to be in the long run for Palantir, okay, to value the company. And before I invest in any company, I always ask myself this one question. It's very simplistic. I always ask myself this. In 5 years, will this company or the sector it's in be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? You have to do that to think long term. And that will stop you from getting seduced into buying value traps, meaning stocks that are cheap for a reason. And whenever a company, a tech company for the most part, starts becoming a little bit less relevant, it's game over. That's right. 99% of all turnarounds in tech don't work. So don't buy tech stocks just because a certain tech stock looks cheap. Think of the long term always. Another thing when it comes to tech stocks is this. And I wrote an article when I worked in venture capital in an online publication called VentureBeat. You can search for it right now. But when a founder leaves a company, and when all the founders leave a company, investors should run for the exits. Because when a founder leaves, usually what happens is bureaucracy sets in, innovation dies. And yes, there's one exception per decade with this, like Apple last decade, whatever. But Steve Jobs did come back. So just be careful. And when a founder takes her eye off the ball and starts focusing on a pet project like a sports team, I would look to short that company. Now, when a founder like Elon Musk, and he's basically a founder of Tesla, basically, okay? But when a founder takes her eye off the ball to look at buying Twitter, right, or X, whatever it's called now, the stock goes down a lot because they're not focused on their core competency, meaning Tesla. The same thing is happening now with Doge. He's taken his eye off the ball. He's focused on Doge now, Department of Government Efficiency, and less so on Tesla. And because of that, and some other reasons, Tesla is down like 50% this year. So you got to make sure that whatever CEO or founder you're investing in is all in. And when I used to work in venture capital and I was interviewing companies to invest in, we would always ask the founder this one question. And I learned this from Saeed Hamidi, who's a brilliant man. I used to be on his board. He's got some, search his name, whatever you'll see. He was the first investor in PayPal. But we asked this question. And if the entrepreneur answers this question I'm about to ask you wrong, we don't even think about investing. And that question is this. Do you have a plan B? And if the entrepreneur says, yeah, if this doesn't work out, I'll go to business school or I'll go to law school or I'll get a job at Big Blue, IBM, whatever. We don't invest. The answer we're looking for is this. I don't have a plan B. I am all in. Okay. And by the way, Saeed Hamidi, so he founded this incredible company called Plug and Play Tech Center. It's an incubation firm here in the Bay Area. And he's a really, really nice guy. And I really do believe that if you help people in life, it'll come back to help you. It's karma. Okay. And there's a great book called Give and Take. And the bottom line message from this book is this. The richest 1% people in the world are givers. And the rest are takers. And the givers make a lot more money in the long run. Not that making more money is something I respect you for, but it is what it is. Yes, there's a lot of selfish, avaricious billionaires, but a lot of them have big hearts and they like to help people along the way. And that's what Saeed Hamidi did. So Saeed immigrated from Iran to the United States around 1980 for political reasons. You all know the reasons. And he started a carpet store, Persian guy, a carpet store on University Avenue in Palo Alto, close to where I live. And there was two guys upstairs, a couple guys that were renting space from his carpet store upstairs, an office. And these dudes could not pay rent. And so Saeed, who's the nicest human being on the planet, they said, I'm so sorry, we can't pay rent. He said, don't worry about it. Just, I don't know, whatever company you have, just give me shares in the company if you want. Don't worry. Those guys were Max Levchin, Peter Thiel, as well as Elon Musk. So he was really the first, and their company was PayPal. Yeah. Give and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. Help others. We're here to serve others. Mentor other people too. Of course, we all need mentors at the companies we work at, but I want you to mentor other people as well. Because when one teaches, two learn. And you're essentially subconsciously reminding yourself of what your DNA sub-factor blueprint is for success. Mentor people. Help people. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Ooh, lots of questions. Yeah, and if I can't answer all the questions, for those of you in my MBA programs, we have our weekly 3-hour Zoom starting in 30 minutes from now. Yeah, in my new MBA products, and you could set up a call with us, there's daily Zoom calls now. Yeah. And because I hired a big team, I've hired a lot of people in the past couple of weeks. Like, I'm really scaling my business. Because of that, I can spend a lot more time with customers instead of doing sales calls. Yeah. All right. Give me 1 second to see what the next question is. Okay, Manas wrote, talking about value and growth. Is Apple now a value company? It's lazy giant. Also, Buffett, being a value investor, has better returns historically than growth investor Kathy Wood. Yeah. No, these are all great questions. Thank you. Yeah. So I learned this from you, Manas, that Kathy Wood, although she's on television a lot, she speaks gooder than me. She's underperformed the S&P 500. It's incredible, right? But what makes a lot of people successful in finance is their ability to sell. 75% of all employees at Goldman Sachs have a sales role. Warren Buffett and Kathy Wood are both good speakers. And because of that, they're able to raise a lot of money because they do a lot of interviews. In fact, Warren Buffett, who went to the same business school I did, it's the only thing we have in common. Actually, we have two things in common. When he was 19, he and I'm not as old as him, although I look like it, we both took the Dale Carnegie public speaking course. And on Warren Buffett's wall in his office is not his Columbia University Graduate School of Business degree. It's nowhere to be seen. He's got his certificate of completion from the Dale Carnegie public speaking course. Why am I saying this? Because your ability to sell and speak in public predicates how successful you'll be, which means confidence. So as I mentioned earlier, the theme for today is really believe in yourself. And I can certainly teach you how to be more confident in my MBA degree program. You can set up a call with us per the link below. And confidence leads to perceived competence. Now, I was given one of my corporate customers, Marvell, ticker MRVL, great semiconductor company here in the Bay Area. I've given lots of speeches to the entire company. I was giving a speech on how to give a presentation, a couple of them actually. And one of the C-level executives in the audience said, it's really interesting because quite often, in many cases, we decide who to buy from based on how confident the person is while they're presenting. Again, confidence leads to perceived competence. And the only way to have true confidence, as I mentioned before, is really not give a damn what people think of you. I want you to live at this level, okay? It's life-changing, I promise you. Yeah. Okay. All right, next question is the AI startup a bubble? Most AI startups are forks of old projects. Yeah, there's definitely a bubble. Like there's a lot of startups that have rebranded themselves over the past year and a half as AI companies because they do a little bit of AI now. So of course there's a massive bubble. It's human nature. If you go back to the late 1990s, there was an internet bubble. Every company was an internet company. I remember Sharper Image said, we're now an internet company because we're selling online. It went belly up. Pets.com, we're an internet company. It went belly up because they had to compete with Amazon. So whenever there's a new shiny toy, so to speak, or new investment theme, all ships rise. The crap goes up as well, like we saw with cryptos as well. And that's what's happening right now with AI. Yeah. All right, next question is, too many AI models and companies and PhDs are getting in the game market, video game market, okay. It's small supply too. Yeah, the video game market is very, very tough. It's dominated by just a handful of companies. Okay, EA as well as Take-Two, which is going to release Grand Theft Auto. I can't wait, very, very soon. And it's usually a really tough market to compete in. And I remember when the iPhone first came out, my kids and I at night, I'd say prayers and we'd play games together. There's always cool new games that would come out, like Cut the Rope, Where's My Water, etc. Angry Birds, etc. And then innovation died. There's no innovation left in gaming. And there's no money to be made either. And if you're a studio and you're doing really, really well, like Naughty Dog Studios, which makes The Last of Us, and by the way, Last of Us Part 2 is going to be on HBO in a couple weeks, you get acquired by a bigger firm like a Sony, for example. Yeah, I don't think video games is a good market. Yeah. Okay. Manas wrote, Alibaba made DeepSeek version that feels like a human. Have you used it? I have not. But I think it's a matter of time until DeepSeek is against the law in the United States. Yeah, I really do. Now, watch this here. Okay, so watch this. Okay, so of course DeepSeek is owned by a Chinese company, and the Chinese government controls it. I'm not a fan of communism. Watch this. What happened? I can't spell. It's okay. In Tiananmen Square in 1989. Okay. Let's see what it says right here. I love freedom of speech. And let's see here. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. Okay. Well, what happened on my spelling sucks, on 9/11? Let's see what it says. It's certainly not going to say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. But let's see. All right. Okay, it goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Okay. All right. Next up, Mac wrote, hey, Chris, can you explain put-call ratio? From what I understand, call will be a 1 as a denominator. Yeah. Why does the stock go up when puts are greater than calls? Yeah. I haven't back tested that. But I would say if more people buy puts on a stock, it means more people are expecting it to go down. Yeah. So that's converse to what you're mentioning there. Yeah. Okay. And then next up, can you talk about convertible notes? Does this dilute the shares once the convertible notes are converted to stock? Yeah, absolutely. It does. Okay, so let me explain what converts means. So you can either raise debt or equity to finance the growth of your company. Equity means like venture capital firms can invest. Debt means you get a loan from a bank or something. Now, what usually happens is if you're a startup, you issue equity, meaning you raise money from venture capital firms every year or two. Sequoia might lead the A round. The B round a year and a half later might be Kleiner Perkins. A year or two later might be Sequoia, or pardon me, it might be Andreessen Horowitz, and eventually IPO. But let's say that your plan is to raise money every year and a half. But between, let's say 5 months in, something bad happens to your company, and you're like, oh my God, we ran out of money. So what do? You're not ready to talk to all the VC firms. So what you can do is this. You can create what's called a convertible note, which is a debt instrument. It's like a loan that converts, hence the name, into equity, meaning it's no longer a debt, becomes equity. The next time you raise money, usually at a 20% discount to what the valuation of the company is going to be in the next round. Now, yes, more shares are created. And since more shares are created, that means that there is dilution. Now, you will get diluted if you start a company and you raise money from venture capital firms, but that's okay. Because yes, you'll own less percent of the company, but the price per share will be much, much higher. And if you have clout, and this is extraordinarily rare, but this here is the S1 document for Facebook, Meta now, when it went public in 2012. And you won't be able to read this, but although Zuckerberg is going to own well under 50% of shares, it says here Zuckerberg will hold or have the ability to control 57.3% of the voting power of the outstanding shares. So he still had power, and he still does. Kind of like Larry and Sergey from Google. Although they don't own more than 50% of the company, they still have voting rights. Yeah. Okay, and then Jazzy wrote, hey, Chris, stocks are down. What do you suggest to look into? Yeah, I don't care if stocks are down. I'm very long-term focused, right? So yes, I'm starting to buy now, right? And I'll never tell you what stocks to buy. I want to teach my students how to fish instead of providing them with a fish. And don't ever rely on me or anybody in terms of what stocks to buy. Because if you rely on, I don't know, Jim Cramer on television on a stock to buy, right? It's his thesis. And if the stock goes down, you might freak out and sell it. I want you to create a long-term financial model and value the company based on your earnings estimates in 5 or 10 years, which is what I teach in my MBA degree program as well. And Mac, I know you're in my MBA degree program. So later on today, during our 3-hour weekly Zoom call and one-on-ones, if you're a platinum student or diamond student, I'm happy to walk through that with you in much more detail. Yeah. So I'm long-term focused, always. Okay. Next up, hey, Michael, how are you? Manos wrote, BRICS, meaning Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. BRICS is making a gold-backed currency. Bitcoin is getting in reserves. Okay, yeah. So what's happening right there is President Trump, it is what it is, but he's threatening that if they do that, he will not trade with them. Yeah, so he's threatened them. Yeah, and so the United States has a lot of clout. So United States, only 2% of their exports, 2 or 3% go to Canada and Mexico. Canada and Mexico, close to 20% of their exports go to the United States. So, Trump, it is what it is, has the cards. Yeah. Or I should say 20% of their GDP is based on the United States, Canada and Mexico, and only 2% on business with Canada and Mexico. But Canada is screwed if this continues because 70% of our exports goes to the United States. We did not ask for this war. And I am vehemently against what is happening. Okay. And look, for all of you out there that are Republicans and voted for Trump, you can't just agree with everything he says, right? There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with certain policies of his. And I certainly disagree. Yeah. And I didn't vote in the last election. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Surgency wrote, hey, Chris, how would you proceed with a LinkedIn profile as a recruiter? What do you think about a bachelor's degree in business analytics? Is it worth it? I'm looking for connections in Canada. Yeah. So what recruiters do, the two most important fields, the two most important fields on LinkedIn are your title, okay, and then the summary section. And that's searched most by recruiters, okay, or sales navigator, et cetera. So let me show you very quickly here. And I'm going to give you an example from a student of mine that graduated from my MBA program years ago. So Dr. Dion Vernon. Okay. So what I recommend doing for the subject line, okay, of your LinkedIn profile is put keywords you think people are going to search for, separated by this vertical line right here. Okay. So Dion is very successful. She actually mentored, taught the U.S. Olympic team, etc. But she's also a physical therapist, and she's a public speaker and a consultant. So these 3 fields are searched quite a bit. Okay. Then what I want you to do is and if you're in my MBA degree program, per the link below, you can always set up a call with us. I want your about section here, summary section, to be written in the third person. So for example, if somebody says to you, and you're about to give a keynote speech, they say, hey, do you have a bio I can read to introduce you? You can say, yeah, just go to my LinkedIn profile. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, that's what I recommend. And of course, I have a lot more stuff to help you with there. Now, for those of you that run your own companies, what I want you to do immediately is this. I want you to add view my services. Costs you nothing if you're a LinkedIn premium member. Okay. And then here you can go view my services. We can't keep up with requests, right? So these are just requests in the past 24 hours. Right? Just in the past that we have not yet answered. And my team should be answering this now. But anyway, it's a lot easier to get business if you market yourself the right way. Yeah. Let's move on. Okay, next up, Mildred, who's one of my diamond students, who has an incredible LinkedIn profile. Mildred runs a company called Spoken Learning. She's great, good friend. She wrote, I watch you every week and I keep laughing about the makeup joke. That's right. Maybe I'm beautiful. Maybe it's Maybelline. And the reason why I have this is usually where people stop watching me, is because when I do interviews on television, or I do videos, whatever, there's always a makeup person comes up to me because, shiny face. So what you do is because if you look shiny like I do on a webcast, a Zoom call, then it makes you look nervous, right? So anyway, you do that. And a great Zoom setup will do more for your career than a great Italian suit will. And that's something I teach in the MBA degree program as well. Okay. Okay. So Matan wrote, how can we business people do faux startups? Please rephrase the question. You wrote something about fundraising as well. I've probably managed and raised over $1 billion in my career. I can definitely teach you how to raise money. Now, before you raise money and before you start a company, what I want you to do is this, okay? I want you to write a full business plan, okay? And for those of you in my MBA degree products, if you go to Entrepreneurship Semester 3, Class 1, we create here your business plan. I ask you hundreds of questions, 780 to be exact. You answer all the questions, and the outputs are your business plan as well as your presentation slides. Okay. Now, for anybody out there that wants to raise money, what I want you to do is I want you to use the Airbnb pitch deck. Okay. Now, Airbnb came out of Y Combinator, and I think Sequoia invested in them, and they killed it. When you create your presentation slides, okay, even corporate presentations, I want you to use the rule of thirds. And Steve Jobs kind of pioneered this. Never have more than 3 things on each slide, right? Like 3 bullet points, 3 numbers, etc. So for those of you giving a presentation, corporate presentation or trying to raise money, etc., I want you to go and do a search for Airbnb pitch deck and use this model because it works. Okay. Okay, next up, Democratic Youth Wave wrote, I'm a female LIHTC developer, and I want to acquire business market apartments, and I'm unsure how to finance the equity. In deals, equity is readily available, but this is a different challenge. Yeah, so what I recommend doing is, I have a template for everything to help you work smarter and not harder. So I recommend sign up for my MBA degree program, and you get this real estate dashboard for free that I mentioned earlier in the call, where I teach you everything about real estate and how to value any real estate investment before you consider investing. Yeah, and it works in every country as well. Okay. Okay. Next up, Philemon wrote, "Learn French and Italian. Talk to people that I want to learn from." Yeah, and we're going to be testing that with AI as well. Yeah, my courses, my programs will be in different languages very soon. It'll look like me, but it'll be a better version of me that speaks gooder. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, I see what's happening here. Okay. A bunch of people here earlier on the call, what I did was I said, if I gave you 30 days off, you can't go to work, you can't travel, and you can't go to school, what do you do with your time? And you wrote, learn French and Italian, talk to people that I want to learn from. Maybe you can look at leveraging an AI product like I just did and make it readily available to people that want to take their English stuff and convert it to different languages, right? There's certainly ways you can do that. You can license products and resell them as well. And when you resell and you're a salesperson, that's where the big fat margins come. A lot of salespeople that work in big companies make more money than the CEO does. And then Jansky wrote, I want to be a coffee maker, and you put a smiley face. Well, you can always, create a YouTube channel on that. And what I want you all to do is I want you to all start a YouTube channel immediately. And the reason I say this is because if you don't do this in the next couple of years, you won't be able to be successful. And the reason I say that is because within a couple of years, AGI, meaning artificial general intelligence, is going to become a reality. What does that mean? Well, that means that we're going to be learning and watching movies of people that don't exist, avatars. So I really think you have a 2 to 3 year window of opportunity to establish the brand of you. Get started now. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Matan wrote, and I love your Curious George the thumbnail there. I used to read those books to my kids. And The Man with the Yellow Hat. My mom read it to me too. So you wrote, what are the courses we can take to be more startup relevant? And do you teach them? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can take any of my MBA degree programs. Let me show you really quick. Okay, so if we go to, and let me go into private mode here. So I'm not logged in. Give me 1 second here. Sorry about this, guys. Okay. So if you go to learn.harounventures.com, hold on a second. I'm going to show you what's included. Learn.harounventures.com. Here we go. Good. Okay. So if you check out my MBA Accelerator product right here, you'll see what's in it. Okay. So I've got, I think there's 30 or 40 courses in this. I teach you everything about entrepreneurship right here. What's also included is a business plan course and just tons and tons and tons of electives, etc. And there's daily calls as well. So I can help you with your business plan daily. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me go back here. Next question is, if I were given 30 days off, I would put more focus on my business, which is selling money through business funding. Yeah. Yeah. And if you want help with that as well, Jeffrey, your name is familiar. I think you might be in one of my MBA programs. You can join any of the Zoom calls as well. I'm happy to help you out with that as well. Okay. Next question is, how can we who have severe ADD succeed? I have huge problems concentrating, and desktop work is really killing me. Yeah. What I want you to do is, I want you to read a book by Malcolm Gladwell, who's from Toronto, called David and Goliath. It's not a religious book. It talks about people that have been diagnosed with certain things are much more successful in life because they've been diagnosed with that. Okay, and let me turn a weakness into a strength and explain that. So when I was younger, and I'm sure I would have been diagnosed with ADD if it existed, years ago. When I was in the 6th grade and the 8th grade, my teachers wanted to fail me because they thought I had a learning disability. So they sent me to Oakville, Ontario on Lakeshore Road, for those of you that are Canadian, to the Chisholm Learning Development Center to see if I had a learning disability. And this is why I teach now. Because teachers, when I was younger, they killed my confidence, and I'm insecure, and I want to fight back and teach the right way with a lot of prompts. Now, for me, what I do to deal with my potential ADD is I focus on what I love doing, but I'm always very active. I'm always doing multiple things at once. Let me show you exactly what this means. Okay, so what I do is, in order to enjoy what I do, okay, this is going to look a little bit crazy to you guys. I'm constantly moving all day long. So I have a treadmill, and I just got a new one that actually inclines as well. Sorry about my messy desk. But what I do is I walk all day long, right? Just to, I don't know, it helps me think better as well. And I recommend that you guys do this as well. And treadmills you can get for $100 now, okay? And the beauty of doing this is that it helps me to focus. And the reason it helps me to focus is because I'm pouring in a lot of oxygen to my brain and treating this right. When this gets treated right, this works gooder. And I realized this when I was younger. Okay, when I was younger and I was in high school, university, my first hour of studying in the morning was the most successful. I got a lot done. But when I tried to study later on at night, 10 hours was not as productive as 1 hour in the morning. But if you're walking, you're productive all day long, just like the first hour of each day. So a 10-hour day can be a 100-hour day. And I know that sounds extreme. I'm exaggerating a bit to make a point. But you can try this. What I also do is I consume a lot of water, and that helps me to focus. And I put just some powder in it to make it taste better. That helps a lot. I also consume bulletproof coffee. Okay, and please do your research on this first, but it helps me focus. Bulletproof coffee has coconut oil in it, which really helps you to focus. And it's got a scoop of grass-fed butter in it as well. And that sounds nutty. I know. But for hundreds of years, people have been putting butter in their tea or coffee. And this gives them this incredible cerebral ability to focus. It's kind of like that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper. You can really, really focus. Yeah. Do your research on it first, though. Talk to your nutritionist. What I also do is you are what you eat. So what I do is every Sunday, I make 7 of these things. And this has the greatest hits of every antioxidant you could possibly think of. And this is my meal throughout the day. So what's in this is a lot of kale, which is a super veggie. And I put broccoli as well, which juice as well it does. I put lemon, I put raw ginger root, I put whey protein, I put acai, I put a little bit of fish oil in as well, and I put aloe water. If you consume the right types of foods and you cut down on carbs as well, you'll be able to focus for longer periods of time. Yeah, so these are just some of the biohacks that I personally use that works for me. What I also do is, you ever go to a movie and, there's beautiful music in the background. But if you ever go to a movie and there's no music in the background, you get bored. You set the soundtrack for your life. So sometimes when I'm working, if I want to focus a little bit better, here's what I do. Alexa, play the soundtrack for the motion picture Interstellar.
Interstellar Radio from Spotify.
Oh, I love it. Alexa, stop. And anybody on this call from Germany, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for Hans Zimmer. So I tend to listen to music by Hans Zimmer. Now, don't listen to music that has words in it. Just listen to classical music. And that will put you in a peak mental state to be productive and focused too. Yeah. And I also don't sit in my office. I have a chair over there only for when I'm sick, which rarely happens. So this works for me. Do what works for you. I promise you, if you use some of the components I just talked about, you'll be able to focus better. I'm not a doctor though, so of course, always talk to a doctor when it comes to ADHD stuff. Yeah. Okay. And I have taken Ritalin in the past, but I'll never do it again. Okay. Next up, Mindy wrote, hi again. Hey, Mindy. Do you think the administrator will create the sovereign fund they discussed? And do you think it's a good idea to invest in it? Yeah, so you're talking about the United States creating a sovereign wealth fund, kind of like what Singapore has been doing for a long, long time. Yeah, well, indirectly, you will be an investor if you're in the United States as a taxpayer. Indirectly, yeah. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think the number one focus of the United States should be paying off its debt, right? And so scrap this trade war. And yes, focus on Doge for cutting expenses to minimize the deficit. Yeah. Okay. Matan wrote, how can one train to be better at sales and business development? You can take my program, set up a call with us. You can just go to the link in the description of this video, and we can walk you through that. But generally speaking, the most important skill in business school they don't teach you is sales. And a way to feel comfortable at sales is to feel comfortable, talking in front of large groups of people. So, of course, I teach that in my MBA program, but I recommend that you take the Dale Carnegie public speaking course. It's available all over the world. Do not do it online. I want you to do it in person. It'll change your life. I took it when I was 19. It was life-changing for me when I was terrified of everybody, public speaking when I was a kid. And also Warren Buffett did it at 19 years old as well. And if you join my MBA degree program, we have an incredible network of like-minded students from all over the world. We have a Discord channel, and you can also use Zoom for free to be able to network with other students and practice presenting. Also, my new MBA executive and accelerator programs, I have daily calls, daily Zooms where you can practice presenting with me. And I will teach you how to sell. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Matan wrote, you were a venture capitalist before. How do you evaluate startups and pick winners? The hit rates is notoriously low. Yeah, the most important thing is you start off with a management team. And it doesn't matter if it's a private company or a public company. You always want to look at the management team first. And business schools don't teach you this. Because what is a company? It's the quality of the management team and the employees. So I always start with the management team, and I'd always rather invest in a company with an A management team with a B business model instead of a B management team with an A business model. And if you want to learn more about this, I made a long vlog on venture capital, and you can access this on my YouTube channel. So just go to my YouTube channel. I'll show you where to access it. Okay, I just made it actually recently. So you go here to videos, and then go right here. this video here called Shorting SpaceX Rival and Venture Capital Explained. And what I do is I explain venture capital from scratch, and I use Sora a lot actually to create the videos. In your face, Adobe, I don't have to pay you anymore for your rip-off video clips. But this explains it in Scratch, okay? Okay. All right. And my next video is going to be released tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And it's going to explain credit default swaps in detail from scratch. Okay, and actually the writer of Billions reached out to me and said, I really love what you're doing. And a lot of people that worked on the Billions show, stagehands, etc., lots of people reached out and say, this is great. I really understand what the episode meant now. I have fun doing it too. Okay. All right. Oh my God. My son, Dylan Haroun, said, hi. Dylan, you're supposed to be in school. Yeah. I think. Yeah. This here is Dylan. He be chillin' with his two other brothers right here. He's 14, going on 40. And he actually helped me a lot with my YouTube channel. Let me go off script here for a second. This is fun. And so what I did when I got this was, this is for just a silver play button that YouTube sent me. I got him one as well. Yeah, because he helped me. Yeah. That's another way to incorporate kids into your children into the learning environments, etc. Yeah, and I had a little desk here set up for him for ages. Yeah. For those of you that work from home, have a little desk beside you as well if you have younger kids, so they can see you work and work with you. Yeah, monkey see, monkey do. Yeah. Good to see you, Monkey Dylan. Okay, moving on to Matthias, who's one of my gold students. He's 26 and he's based in Italy. Wrote, which will have a greater impact on the United States economy? The revenue and deflationary effects of Trump-era tariffs or the inflationary pressures from low... Alexa, stop. I do have to wrap up this call in a second. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So what Trump is doing by issuing tariffs, it's definitely going to hurt the economy in the near term. Okay. Now, Trump doesn't have to get reelected. This is the last time he's going to be president, so he wants to make a long-term lasting legacy. And he's taken a page, actually, from the Chinese government strategy, which is to be focused on 100-year goals instead of quarterly goals, which I think has kind of hurt the U.S. economy because, Wall Street executives always think on a quarterly basis. So what he's doing is definitely going to hurt the economy a lot. I think the chances of recession this year are 50-50. Canada is definitely going into recession, which breaks my heart. But the long-term impact can be better for the United States because this will encourage companies that don't want to have to pay these crazy import fees to build plants here in the United States, which is good for jobs, etc., makes the United States less dependent on other countries. But there's going to be a lot of pain. And one of the reasons why the markets went down materially this week, especially on Monday, down over 4%. Because over the weekend, Donald Trump was on television being interviewed by Maria Bartiromo, a great financial journalist. And Trump kind of implied, when asked about, are we going to recession? He didn't answer the question, which signals that he might allow us to go into recession. Yeah. So near term, a lot of pain, long term potential gain. Yeah. Yeah. And you can tell by my demeanor that I'm a little bit more opinionated today, right? From my body language, only because I am Canadian and I see what's happening in Canada, and it's not fair to blame Canada for this fentanyl issue and slap tariffs because of that, given the fact that 0.1% of all fentanyl comes from Canada now. So it just breaks my heart, and it's also it's demeaning. At first, I kind of laughed at it when he called, he called Canada 51st state. I kind of laughed, but it's demeaning. We have pride as well. This is our country. We're proud of who we are. So I hope he stops that nonsense. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I really feel. Okay. Let me get to the next question now. Thank you. And again, I won't be able to get to everything, but for those of you in my MBA programs, we start our 3-hour Zoom call in a couple of minutes. Go to the very first lecture of your Silver MBA degree program to get the Zoom link, please. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Ralph wrote, hey, Chris, I was not feeling good in the last month. I'm behind in the MBA program, but I'll catch up. Don't worry. No, it's all good, man. You have lifetime access. This is your MBA in your own terms. Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on to Sanjay, who wrote, hey, Chris, I know your strategy is long-term investing. I was wondering for people who want to do other strategies, how do I do it? Yeah. I'm going to get down on my knees like I always do when somebody implies they want to be trading. Please don't do it. Okay. Please don't ever become a day trader. Be long-term focused. And the reason I say that is because there is no successful day traders. Otherwise, we know their names. Why is that the case? Because what makes markets go up and down in a short amount of time, meaning the 20 week days where the markets are open each month, is random events, black swan events you can't forecast. I couldn't have forecast that Trump was going to put up massive tariffs. I thought it was a bluff. You know, I can't forecast that Putin is going to say no to a ceasefire. I can't forecast, you know, what the economic data points are going to be. You got to be long-term focused always, please. And that light there is killing me. And Salvador Dali said, if you strive for perfection, you'll never reach it. But I don't care. I have to see if I can get rid of that. Is that right here? Yeah, it's coming from here. All right, I'm a loser. I'm not going to focus on that. Yeah. And don't release your product when it's ready. If you do release your product when it's ready, you miss the market, as Reid Hoffman, the brilliant co-founder of LinkedIn, said. That's why the term minimum viable product exists. Get your product out fast. Okay, guys, I know there's tons more questions. Please either save them for next week or log on to Zoom if you're in one of my MBA programs. Or what you can do is set up a call by going to the description of this video with my team to talk about joining one of my coaching programs, MBA programs, etc. God bless you all. I'll see you next week and every single week. Thank you.